You figure what the maximum number of plants you could ever need is, divide or multiply it times 2, and you get about half as many plants as you really wanted. But if you're going to plant beds of annuals, you're going to put a lot of plants in there. It's going to give you the most beautiful beds in the world. But a lot of people allow too much space in their landscape plan for annual plantings. I think you should always have some, because that's the only way you're going to have beautiful flowers there on Christmas Day or New Year's Day during the middle of the winter. But there are a lot of places that perennial beds are going to be more of an answer because you use bigger plants, it doesn't take as many, and most of your perennials are going to last a little bit longer, somewhere between 2 and 5 years. Some of them will last a lot longer than that. But anyway, remember that formula so you can determine how many plants. Same thing's true with ground covers. It's real useful when you start planting an area with ground cover. Most ground covers we plant in 4-inch pots. We're putting them on 1-foot centers. So however many square feet you have in the bed, that's how many plants you need. But it's still going to surprise you. A 10 by 13 bed, that's 130 square feet. That's 130 plants. It takes a lot of plants to plant properly. But just keep that in mind as you describe which areas are going to be hardscape, which areas are going to be planted, and which areas may just wind up being mulched.
How do we see that we're just not expensively feeding the deer?
You put up a big fence. A fence is the only thing that permanently stops deer. This is the best deer repellent that we found. It's called Bob-X. Put it out every 30 days. Deer can read calendars. If you don't believe that, put it out and wait 31 days between putting it out. They'll come in and eat your plants the last night. There are plants that are deer resistant. Generally, the smellier the foliage is, the less the deer will like it. There are a handful of plants that I will call deer-proof that are either poisonous or highly aromatic. But most plants are only deer-resistant, and if the deer get hungry enough, they may eat things that they don't like when they're starving, which they're doing right now.
Do you have,
One other thing I was going to tell you about plants is when you first buy plants from a nursery, even the so-called deer-resistant plants, if they've been fed chemical fertilizers, and quite frankly, a lot of the plants that we bring in here, we don't have any choice. We bought from nurseries, use chemical fertilizers on them. Once they're here, they never get that. But on a chemical fertilizer, your plants will not be nearly as deer resistant as they are on organic fertilizers. Lantana is moderately deer resistant, but the day you plant it, the deer may come in and eat it to the ground. But after it's been on your organic fertilizer program for 2, 3, 4 months, it's going to be much, much more deer resistant than it was the day you planted it.
we bought the Bobbit, and we would spray it, and that night, guaranteed, they'd come in and mow the stuff down.
It just depends on how hungry they are. Like I say, if deer at this point, a biologist once told me that the healthy carrying capacity for the hill country in San Antonio, we ought to have about 800,000 deer out there. Today we have about 13 million. The deer are starving, and a starving creature will eat anything, no matter how bad it tastes or how bad it smells. Deer at this point in the hill country, a lot of them are eating cedar trees. The cedar tree will get in their throat. It will close their throat and they will die. And the best thing that could happen to us would be for, about 9 out of every 10 deer to die. And I hate to think of it that way. But again, that's why I say the only true, absolute way to stop deer is with a high fence.
Wow. You said last week you were going to cover how to deal with erosion.
Okay, that is a good point. Thank you, I've forgotten that. If you have and this is kind of specialized, everybody, we will start our seminar season again in the fall, sometime probably toward the end of September. If you've enjoyed this, we do a wide range of topics. Fertilize this summer, water. You'll be amazed at the difference it makes, and above all, mulch, and put more mulch out. It'll get you through this summer without any real loss of things, except for, if you planted impatiens, you're going to have to water those things, but fortunately, get out there with a hose and do it. If you've got St. Augustine grass, if you stop watering Bermuda and zoysia, it turns brown, but it comes back when you water again. If you stop watering St. Augustine, it dies. If you have a huge yard of St. Augustine, pick the point that you want to save and get out there and water it regularly. The rest of it, turn it into ground covers and beds and things like that. But Anyway, it's been a pleasure having everybody here. I will stay and answer questions first with hers, and then yours, and then anybody else. But, thanks, y'all. And by the way, if you come in asking questions or needing help, Wendy and Donna and Roberta are all as smart as I am. Don't feel like you have to talk to me in a lot of areas, especially with design. Donna's the best designer we've got. She's actually an ASID certified interior designer. So if you want to come in and say, where should I plant one thing or another, you're better to talk to them than you are to talk to me. But question was about erosion. And erosion is, you know, what's going to occur when we've got a slope, that water runs down the slope. Guys, I'll ask you, get you to take your conversations outside if you wouldn't mind, so I can answer her question. If you've got a slope that you want to stop erosion, you almost need to put bands of something along it that will keep the water from running down. If you're going to plant grass on it, buy those strips of grass, but cut them into about 3-inch wide things and put literally little contour lines along, and that will help stop erosion. Anything with a thick fibrous root system will help stop erosion. And if you're out in the country, native grasses give you by far the biggest root system and the biggest hurry, and that's what's going to cut down on erosion. If you've had to bring in soil or something and you've got to just, you know, stop erosion immediately, either planting something in contours or putting like a heavy mulch on the surface of the soil, dirt will erode far less under mulch than it will if it's just exposed to the rain and things. But most common question I get is people that have a real slope, they want to establish it with grass but can't afford to go ahead and just lay the sod in solid. Get some pieces of sod and lay it out in strips, maybe 12, 18 inches apart, just coming down the slope, and then put your grass seed in the rest of the area. That will reduce your erosion to a minimum and still allow you to establish grass on that kind of area.
What about like shrubs and things, would that work?
Again, the more root system you have, the less erosion you will have. Grass is better than ground covers are better than shrubs are better than trees. The more roots, the less erosion.
Could you suggest some grasses?
Is it going to be watered?
It can be watered.
You know, then I would say take your choice, Bermuda or St. Augustine. Those are probably the two best grasses that you can buy in pieces of sod.
Oh, I see. Well, when you mentioned grasses, I was thinking of tall growing grasses.
Ornamental grasses, if you just want grass out there and you're not wanting to see necessarily individual types of grass, get a grass, just a native grass seed mix from Douglas King. If you want specific varieties, boy, there are a lot of different good ones out there. There's purple fountain grass, there's ruby crystals grass, there's miscanthus, the maiden grasses, they're what we call pennicetums. Ornamental grasses are great and they will do a good job, but you have to plant them fairly thickly if you're going to stop the erosion.
Thank you.
Certainly. Yes.
We planted a lawn of the zoysia, El Toro zoysia, and my husband, he composted recently, not too long ago. Can you compost anytime?
If you compost during the heat, you'll get some yellowing. It won't kill your grass, but I don't recommend applying compost in the middle of the summer.
Okay.
Any of the rest of the year is
And
great.
then because it's so hot, areas, the appearance of the grass, like, you know, the blade is real fine, like almost Bermuda. Is that because of not enough water in
No,
those
that's what it's supposed to look like.
Because
that's healthy
some
El Toro
of those blades
zoysia.
that look the healthier are larger bladed. I don't know.
You may have something else
Maybe
mixed
it's
in with
mixed
your
in.
zoysia.
Okay.
Yeah. But the heat doesn't have anything to do with it. Drought is what will cause problems. Fertilize it and water it. Stay away from jammer zoysia. That's very prone
No,
to
we didn't
disease.
get that one. It was El Toro.
Yeah, El Toro is good as long as you have lots of sun.
It's a lot of sun.
Yep. Plenty of water and fertilizer, it'll stay beautiful. Yes, ma'am.
2 questions. I have a large red oak stump that I'm having removed, ground and removed, and still gonna remove the soil with all the chippings in there. Okay, that's not good for mulch, is it?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's okay to use that?
Mix a
okay?
little compost with it and it's great mulch.
Okay. Secondly, it's gonna leave a big hole,
Mhm.
and we're going to put soil in there. Where do I get the soil, and how long will it take before that soil is packed down enough for me to